right, welcome back to another episode of Beer, Bacon, and Bros. As always, it's Keith and Chris. Adam and Alex are both out this evening, but we're going to keep chugging along. So we're going to get into what?
We're a Beer, Bacon, and Bros podcast, and you said chugging. So
No, you know.
Yeah, it's a good pun.
Nice pun there.
Nice dad joke.
Yeah. I am the oldest one out of the group, so.
True.
Anyway, maybe lose my train of thought. We're going to jump into some predictions for the Final Four.
College football playoff Final Four.
Correct. Well, I was getting there.
Yeah.
For the college football playoffs that are gonna kick off here at the end of December. So before we get into that, make sure you are subscribing to the channel. It really helps us out. It's free for you guys. Our subscribers are really growing now. We're starting to get some momentum. It's really great. We appreciate all you guys that are coming in to the family. Make sure you're dropping some comments and some likes. We definitely will get back to all the comments that you leave, and we definitely appreciate the likes. So, like we said, we're going to jump into our predictions on who the Final Four are going to be for this year's college football playoff championship.
Yep. So as it stands here we're doing this video on November 16th. This is Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU are the current four. Those rankings obviously just come out last night on Tuesday. So I have my feeling on the Final Four. We're obviously predicting what it's going to finally ultimately be, which means that we can't put probably Michigan and Ohio State in there. So
no, one of those two is going to definitely drop because they're going to meet each other in the Big Ten championship. So one of those two, unfortunately, will most likely drop. But see, that's the thing. When they go in and make these Final Four, they do it based off of money. They don't really do it based off of the top teams.
I mean, you say that, but I guess
look at all the past years. You put a 2-loss Alabama in.
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, so, they know the SEC is a harder conference.
Well, no, I understand that, but it also is better it's better revenue.
Yeah.
And it's better TV.
Yeah.
So I mean, if they could put Alabama back into this, I'm sure they'd find a way to put Alabama back into this.
Yeah.
So, but
I mean, there's a lot of big name schools on this, right? Like you're talking about Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan. You can't take TCU in that. I wouldn't take Tennessee in that either. But LSU, a Southern Cal, and Alabama. Clemson has a cult following, obviously. So
LSU definitely is. Well, they're a big dark horse in this because what happens if they go in and beat Georgia?
If LSU
goes in and beats Georgia in that SEC championship,
well, let's for instance, I'm leaning this way, so I'll just go ahead and reveal it. Let's say Ohio State beats Michigan. What I would say is you're going to have Ohio State, and we'll say TCU goes undefeated. It would be Ohio State, TCU, Georgia, probably LSU, or LSU then Georgia. So that's where I think it would probably fall.
If LSU beats Georgia, how they would work it is they wouldn't put LSU to play Georgia in the first round in the playoff.
I might actually would say you actually would get a two-loss LSU team as the 2 seed, TCU 3, Georgia 4, and have Ohio State
play Georgia.
Yeah. I don't foresee that happening. I think Georgia can handle LSU, so I'll give you my 4. I think my 4 is going to end up being Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, and Tennessee. I actually think that will be probably 11-1 Tennessee with a win against South Carolina, a win against Vandy, who had to sit out of the SEC championship game. I think Michigan and Ohio State obviously get together the last game of the season around on Thanksgiving weekend, and I actually fully believe that Ohio State will beat Michigan. Michigan will go to 11-1. Tennessee will be 11-1. Obviously, LSU is going to end up going 9-3 at that point, or 10-3 at that point. Southern Cal obviously can have a shot at this as well. They could be the conference champion if they can beat Oregon ultimately in the Pac-12 championship game. And then Clemson, is going to be 11-1 with a chance against North Carolina, who's now already number 13 in these rankings. Get to the end of the season, North Carolina's obviously only got 2 more games left. They go 11-1 at the ACC championship game. Clemson's 11-1 the ACC championship game. Maybe you have a chance for Clemson sneaks back in. But I personally don't think they put Tennessee in as a 1-loss if you have a USC come in as a 1-loss conference champion. Yeah.
You have Tennessee as a 1-loss conference champion, and then depending on what actually happens in that Big Ten game, between Ohio State and Michigan.
Michigan and Ohio State can't play for the Big Ten
Or,
championship.
well,
They're
not,
on the same side.
well, the game, the actual rivalry game. If I said championship, I apologize.
Yeah.
But the actual rivalry game, I mean, depending on how close that game is, and then if Ohio State potentially loses the Big Ten championship, you can see them both. You can see them both sneaking back in there.
I don't think if Michigan loses a game, I don't think Michigan gets in. You look at Michigan's schedule; their only quality win right now is Penn State. So if they can't beat Ohio State, they have Penn State, and they have nothing in the out of conference. You have Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn. Those were their 3 out of conference opponents this season. And so for me, if you're the committee and you're looking at Tennessee and you're saying, hey, Tennessee went and played Pitt at Pitt, they went to LSU and beat LSU. They had Alabama at home and beat Alabama at home. And then their one loss was Georgia at Georgia. You've got to take Tennessee over Michigan. I mean, you should be rewarding people
over Michigan,
for
yes,
playing people.
Yeah, but I don't. But so
The Southern Cal is the tricky thing.
I still think you can't put a one-loss non-conference champion Tennessee in over a one-loss conference champion USC.
Well, if you look at USC, I own them in the fantasy league, and one of the reasons I wanted them, they didn't play anybody this year, so they played a bunch of Mountain West teams out of conference. They have literally no top 25 wins currently, even though they're 9-1. They've taken the loss to Utah. They have UCLA this coming weekend, so we don't know what's going to happen there at UCLA.
Well,
I'll give them a W there, and then they got to play Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. So all of a sudden you say, okay, Southern Cal's a conference champion with 2 ranked top 25 wins against Oregon and UCLA and a loss against Utah. I think then they really become part of the conversation. Same thing for Clemson. As much as I hate it, Clemson's sitting at 9. They're 9-1, right? A lot of things are going to shift up and down this board with, Alabama, Tennessee, LSU, Michigan, Ohio State. So if Clemson goes 11-1, they win the ACC. They're going to have wins over Wake Forest, Florida State, Syracuse, NC State, and their only loss is at Notre Dame, who's obviously back into the top 25 now and climbing. And then they got to beat. They have to beat North Carolina, who will be a top 10 team at that point, probably when they play in the ACC championship game. I hate to say it, I hate Clemson with all of my heart, but they have a decent enough resume for people to start talking about them getting back up into number 4.
No, I know. I personally look at it as, clearly Georgia wins, Georgia runs the table. They're going to be number 1 all the way through.
Yep.
Ohio State wins, they win the Big Ten. They're going to be number 2 all the way through.
Yep.
Number 3. Michigan's going to fall out, so that's probably going to be your TCU if TCU runs the table.
Yeah, TCU has to rematch Texas or Kansas State right now for the Big 10 or Big 12 championship game. They dominated Kansas State. Obviously, they struggled this past week with Texas, but Texas really beat themselves in general. So there will be a rematch of one of those 2 games for the Big 12 championship. So it's not a cakewalk for TCU. It's a very easy schedule left remaining, though.
Yeah, but it's an attainable goal. It's something they can get into with first-year coach Sonny Dykes. So, I personally leave TCU in there at number 3. And then at 4, I'm going to have to look at USC if they run the table. If USC runs the table, I still think you got to put USC in over Tennessee.
That's fair. Big money school too. I mean, if you're the college football playoff committee, that's
big money
that's
school.
A big school with
They've
a lot
got
of history.
they got a big following.
Yeah.
People are going to go wherever they go.
Yeah.
People are going to go wherever Georgia goes. Ohio State's going to travel.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, TCU gets in there after they felt like they were snubbed a couple of years ago out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're going to have people travel for them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I personally like it to be Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, USC.
Okay. All right.
And this will
so
be
the only difference for me was Tennessee at 4 instead of USC. So.
And this will be the first year ever in the entire college playoffs that Clemson nor Alabama have been a part of the playoff picture.
Don't say it. Yeah, Alabama is the one that probably has no shot, but don't say it yet. Clemson might have a shot at this.
Well, I didn't say it could potentially be. I didn't say it was going to be. It could potentially be the first year in 8 years that we've had this setup that there will not be a Clemson or an Alabama in a playoff national championship run.
Okay. Well, hit us in the comments. Let us know who you think will be the final 4 for the college football playoffs this year. And as always, we appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe.